Good evening, folks. Welcome to tonight's webinar, talking about trail cameras and all things whitetail as in regards to onX hunt. Please forgive me for my hoarse voice. I'm overcoming some bronchitis at the moment, but I'll try to load up on cough drops and not sound too terribly scratchy for you all. Super excited to talk about the onX hunt trail camera integration and show you guys how that works and give away a few trail cameras to some of you folks. That way, if you don't already have a Bushnell Covert or Exodus, we'll try to get you one through the giveaway tonight. So there's a couple good spots for you guys to interact with myself as well as other people on the webinar here. So we have the chat and the question area at the bottom of your navigation in Zoom here. So please, in the chat, throw, hey, I'm Bob from New York, or talk about the deer you're getting on trail cameras or the hunts you've had. And then, the question is a great spot to throw any questions that you guys have, whether that be onX at large, trail camera questions, strategy questions, whatever it may be. I'm more than happy to answer some of those. And kind of my agenda is for the first half hour, 35 minutes, I'm going to run through the app showing you the trail camera integration, some of the more nuanced whitetail features within onX. And then I'll do questions for 10, 15 minutes and try to be wrapped up in just under an hour, right around an hour. So we are going to be doing a giveaway. As mentioned, we're going to be giving away some onX merch as well as a few cell cameras from our camera partners. So we'll drop a giveaway link about a half hour through the webinar for you guys to fill out. You'll have to fill it out pretty much in live time, as that giveaway link is only valid for a few hours after this webinar concludes. We do post all of these webinar recordings on the onX Hunt YouTube. So if you got to bail early or you need to catch the latter half or whatever it may be, you can revisit the onX Hunt YouTube to see this recording in full length if you missed anything. So with that, I am going to start sharing my screen here, showing you the Hunt app. And if there are any issues with my audio or video, please just let me know and we will get those fixed up. So I'm going to share here. All right. I should be sharing my screen. Somebody pop in the chat and let me know if I am not. And we will do our best to rectify that. All right. So right now you are looking at the onX Hunt app, and the bottom right-hand corner of the nav, you have the tracker, and then right next to that, you have a trail camera tab. If you do not see that on your Hunt app, that is because you have not yet created a trail camera. So what you can do is you can tap the tools menu, and using the add trail camera button right there, you can add a trail camera, which I'm just going to go do this for example's sake. I'm just going to leave trail camera AV as the name, choose my brand. We'll go with Bushnell. You can type in the model if you want, and then, choose cellular or SD. And then you can also choose the battery count. I have 12 batteries in my Bushnells. I usually run 16 gigabyte cards. And then this year, my color for all waypoints is brown. I sort by year. Let's say this camera is in the field. That's automatically going to populate your little trail camera icon that you see right there. And then just like a regular waypoint, wherever you tap on the map, that's where you can place that trail camera. You can give it a location name. So we're just going to say test webinar. And then you can also set the direction of a camera. It's a very small feature, but I've found this to be pretty helpful when, checking cameras that I haven't set for a while, just remembering what direction they're facing. And again, trying to predominantly face all of my trail cameras in a northerly direction to avoid some of those false triggers with the sun and things of that nature, which I will get more into here later. But if you do not have that trail camera icon that you see right there that I just clicked on, again, you can go to Tools, Add Trail Camera, and that is going to automatically populate that little trail camera tool in your main nav at the bottom. And so first things first, we are now fully integrated with Bushnell, Covert, and Exodus cellular cameras. And so what that means is now with your trail cameras, you can start receiving photos from all of your different Bushnell, Exodus, and Covert trail cameras straight into the Hunt app. So here I have a smattering of trail cameras across states from Montana all the way over to Wisconsin. I think I'm pushing close to 24 trail cameras in the woods right now. And the vast majority of them are Bushnell, Covert, and Exodus cameras that are now sending photos to my Hunt app, which you guys are looking at right now. So I'm going to quickly go into each of the manufacturer's app and just show you how easy it is to connect those manufacturers' trail cameras to send images to the Hunt app. So I'm going to close out of my onX here. I'm going to go over and grab my trail camera folder. So as you see, I run Bushnell's. Scout Tech is the application behind Exodus trail cameras. I have Covert. Then I run a few Moultries and Tacticams as well, which do not yet connect to the onX Hunt app. I know there was a bunch of questions in the registration email about when we might be connecting other brands. So I will circle back to that here in just a little bit. So starting with Bushnell, as soon as you open your Bushnell app, you kind of get dumped into your home pages here where it shows you whether you have new images and what you got going on. Then, of course, you have your photo gallery, and then you have your devices. So if you go to your devices, you'll see under each device, you have the ability to send to onX. And so all you're going to do is tap that send to onX button. And it is going to prompt you to log into your onX Hunt account. So I'm going to quickly log in to my onX Hunt account. Tap log in. It's going to take a minute to think. And then just like that, it's going to ask you which of your Bushnell trail cameras you would like to connect to your Hunt app. And so this, I'm just going to select all cameras, and I'm going to hit done, and I'm going to hit confirm. And so if you are connecting, and you'll see right there, you now have the onX branded logo underneath each of your devices that is now connected. And so what you want to do is if you have a Bushnell, Covert, or Exodus trail camera, you do not, I'll repeat, you do not want to go into onX Hunt, create a trail camera, and then connect from your Bushnell, Covert, or Scout Tech app. You want to go into the manufacturer's app and connect your trail camera from Bushnell, from Scout Tech, for Exodus, or from Covert. And then in the back end, the Bushnell app will communicate with the onX app, and it will automatically create a trail camera icon for you within onX Hunt as soon as you connect your Bushnell, Covert, or Exodus camera with onX. And so within a couple seconds, this will then create those trail cameras within your Hunt app. And if you have your GPS, well, first off, if your trail camera is GPS capable, which most of them from Bushnell, Covert, and Exodus are, but if they are not, then you will have to manually set that trail camera in the location that you have it placed in. If they are GPS enabled and you have that turned on, they're automatically going to place the trail camera icon that is created in the Hunt app exactly where that trail camera sits. So I'm just going to hop back into onX and kind of show you what that looks like. So if I go to cameras here, you can see that this is trail camera AV. That's the setup one that we just did when I created it natively inside of onX. Whereas these three cameras are the cameras Montana Bills, Montana River South, and Test Cam are the three cameras that I just sunk over to onX from Bushnell. And so they are GPS enabled. So you'll see that I have them right up here in this piece of public ground, connected, and they are already in here, and I will soon be receiving photos to each individual camera. And you'll see this one did not have the GPS enabled. And so what you can do is you can simply move that. And again, now anywhere I tap, that camera will move to. And so you can move it to wherever that camera's actual location is if you do not have that GPS enabled on the camera natively. So that's as simple as it is to connect a Bushnell trail camera to the onX Hunt app. Next, I'm just going to walk you through connecting a Exodus trail camera through the Scout Tech app. So same thing, I have my couple Exodus cameras right here. One's in Iowa, one's in Montana. I can click on the hamburger menu at the top left, and right there it says onX Hunt settings. I did not log out just so I didn't have to log in for this webinar's sake, but then you can simply flip on the trail cameras that you want to be connected to the Hunt app from Scout Tech for your Exodus trail cameras. And again, those will create trail camera icons within your Hunt app that if the GPS is enabled, they'll be placed where your camera is. If the GPS is not enabled, they'll just be placed in your current location, and you can simply tap on that trail camera and move them. And then lastly, covert. I'm going to back out of here and go to the main view and show you how to get to where I'm looking at. So this is where you get dumped into when you have coverts. Again, I got a few in Iowa, got one in Montana. And if you tap on your hamburger menu and go to profile, you'll see onX Hunt is the top option. onX Hunt sync settings. Again, I did not log out, so I didn't have to log in, but you can simply flip that on to enable the connectivity between covert and onX, and you're going to flip these cameras on, and now those are going to create trail camera icons inside my Hunt app automatically for me that will then connect to your covert app, and you'll be receiving images straight to that trail camera icon that represents the camera that you're looking at on your covert wireless app as to where it is in the field. And so just like that, you can start receiving trail camera images straight to your onX Hunt app. That way you are receiving images, correlated by location of each individual camera. The one word of caution that I will give if you connect your cameras via the Hunt app is, so this camera, for example, if this is cellularly connected, do not archive it. Because if I archive this camera, which I'll do for example's sake, but again, do not archive it. If I archive this currently, then you will not be able to reconnect that camera to the Hunt app just due to a back-end bug that we are working on solving. So again, I'll reiterate, connect your cellular cameras from the manufacturer's app, enable them to sync with onX Hunt, and they will then create a trail camera icon for you natively in the Hunt app. Now, if you have a trail camera that is not a Bushnell, Exodus, or Covert, you can certainly still use the trail camera tool within onX. It's just going to be a little bit more manual for the time being. So, excuse me. You can still just create a trail camera as you would. We'll say that this one is a Moultrie, and it is, let's just say it's an SD camera for example's sake, 12 batteries. Actually, I'm pretty sure Moultries only run 8 batteries. Make it brown. And so you can save that just as you would any other camera. And then from there, you can access this camera via our web map. So if you go to onxmaps.com and log into the web map with your same login that you use to get into the Hunt app, you can upload photos from an SD card that will then appear here. That way, again, if you don't have a cell camera that you want to connect via Bushnell, Covert, or Exodus, you can still start to upload those trail camera images through the web map to still use the functionality within onX to start managing your trail cameras within the Hunt app. And so, you'll see I have archived a lot of cameras, and I'm working through the bug that I just told you guys about to not archive your cameras. And so I actually have close to 600 images in here from over the last month. And as you'll see, that they're from a multitude of different cameras. And so when you are on your main trail cameras tab, you can look at all of your photos by just going to photos. And this is going to be your photos from every trail camera that you have connected or uploaded photos from. Or you can go into an individual camera and see just the photos that have come in from that individual camera. Unfortunately, for example's sake, I just archived all of my cameras before this webinar so I could show you guys how they synced over from Bushnell, Covert, and Exodus. So I don't have a great example to show you for photos under an individual camera, but I promise they will start showing up so long as you do not archive them. But our plan with trail camera management goes far beyond just integrating with cell cameras. So our next few steps with trail cameras is really dialing in notifications to give you guys notifications when you have new photos inside of onX, as well as implementing an auto recognition system for your images to help you categorize buck, doe, coyote, so on and so forth. And that's really going to build the foundation for utilizing the onX Hunt app to better manage your trail cameras with organization and analysis. And so what I mean by that is, sorry. What I mean by that is for organization, what we plan to do after we have notifications and the custom image analysis going is we are going to allow you to create custom tags and custom folders for all of your trail cameras and trail camera images. So you could imagine if you had multiple farms or maybe you hunted multiple states. So in my case, I'm planning on hunting Montana, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Kansas this year. Well, Kansas, I can't run trail cameras at all on public land, so I don't have any trail cameras going in Iowa. I have multiple in Wisconsin. I have multiple in Iowa. I have multiple in Montana. And so what I would do is, create folders for each individual state and then custom tag individual deer that I was interested in hunting to help create an organization system based on state, based on individual deer. And that will really then bleed into our future analysis of these trail camera photos for you. And so that is going to be an opt-in that you have to allow us to analyze your trail camera images. And so what I mean by analyze your trail camera images is every trail camera has a coordinate attached to it within the onX Hunt app. And on top of that, they have timestamps on when those photos were taken. So those two things allow us to pull a pile of metadata around moon phase, around wind direction, wind speed, temperature, barometric pressure, all of the factors that us whitetail hunters geek out over and look at before most of the hunts we go on. And then we will be able to start to pull out correlations from your photos on your farm to help you be a more efficient hunter. So, for example, what that could look like is, let's say you wanted to harvest a doe. You could input that into the Hunt app and say, show me the cameras that have had the most daylight doe activity over the course of the last week. And so then we could spit out a little chart for you to say, okay, your south side food plot, 6 of the last 7 days have had a daylight doe photo. Well, your north side pinch point camera, only 2 of the last 7 days have had a daylight doe photo. Now, of course, I know, as well as all of you know, trail cameras do not tell the whole story, but they certainly paint a great picture. And so if that was the case, I'd obviously be headed to the south side food plot to fill my freezer, just at the pure instance rate of more does have been on camera in daylight over the course of the last week. Going even further than that, let's say you have a target buck, Steve. You have 40 photos of Steve, and you want onX to pull out some correlations and analytics from this target buck, Steve. Okay, of those 40 photos, 16 of them were in daylight. So we're not even going to look at the math is hard, 24 photos that were in darkness. We're just going to analyze those 16 daylight photos that you have of Steve. And let's say, you know, you have 3 cameras that Steve is on. He's on your west side fence, your north side pinch point, and your south food plot. Well, we could then quickly pull, okay, 3 of those 16 photos were on a northeast wind between 7 and 13 miles an hour at your west side fence with a rising barometric pressure, whereas 9 of those 16 photos were at your south side food plot on a predominantly south wind between 9 and 20 miles an hour with a rising barometric pressure, essentially just pulling out correlations and similarities in photos on particular deer or a subset of deer to help you be more efficient and understand, okay, if Steve is hitting the south side food plot in the evenings on south winds, you can then kind of analyze your map, look and see where he is likely betting to give you the best opportunity at being there when he's going to be on his feet in daylight. And so again, this organization and analysis, this is future looking. It is not yet built. We are currently working on building it on the back end. But this is literally just scratching the surface of what we intend to do with our trail camera integration. And this is really going to be the foundation of us helping build you guys a predictive model for deer hunting that is going to be based on your deer, your images, your farm, not just anecdotal weather data or data from insurance companies based on car collision rates or you know, looking at somebody's journal holistically over their lifetime and on their farm, but really giving you data to hunt your deer more effectively. So that is the ultimate goal of this trail camera integration, as well as just simplifying the management of trail cameras. As you guys all likely know, you probably have a couple brands of trail cameras, and if they're cell cameras, that means you need multiple apps. I mean, on my phone, you saw I have 5 different apps that I'm running. Whereas if I can get all of those inside of onX Hunt, that's going to save me valuable time and energy trying to sort through those photos rather than using a spreadsheet to figure out, you know, wind correlations and weather correlations. We are going to take the logistics out of managing trail cameras for you. That way, all you have to do is focus on the hunt and get to your stand and be planted there when the right time comes. So there's a number of live questions coming in that I just want to address quickly. Best way to import images on Moultrie Mobile. Unfortunately, Moultrie, we do not have a partnership with yet. But if you want to pull those SD cards, you can simply go to onxmaps.com and upload them there, which I will actually try to demonstrate right now. Please forgive me if this becomes a technical challenge, but I will work quickly here to hopefully make it not be that way. Okay. Is there a plan to add more companies for trail camera integration? Yes. So, you know, of course, we want to add every single trail camera company that exists. That is our goal. That unfortunately is probably not ever going to be a reality, but I can tell you right now that our top partners are well, obviously Bushnell, Covert, and Exodus are our launch partners, our top partners at the moment, but we have high aspirations to add Tacticam, Browning. We've had multiple conversations with Spartan Cameras. Blackgate is a smaller company that has shown a lot of interest. We've made contact with Moultrie and Spy Point. And so really for this year, there will not be any additional partners added in 2023. But in 2024, we plan to be very aggressive in adding a bunch of new partnerships for trail cameras because this is really going to be a feature of focus here at onX for the foreseeable future. All right, I am just getting logged in on web here, so I am going to leave my phone. All right, so I think I've now got you guys on web, and I will open up my screen here, and I'm going to try to share on Web Map. That way I can just simply show you how you can upload SD photos from web. So right now you're looking at my personal account here, and so I'm just going to go into trail cameras, and I am just going to pick a random one here. We'll do one of these test ones. Go to marketing example number 4. And so what you can do is when you have these trail cameras and you're on web, all you do is go to photos and then upload. And so this just pulls me right into my recent downloads. Thankfully, I have some cuttybacks that send me photos from Iowa every day. So I downloaded a few of those this morning. And just like that, it kind of gives you an update on where we are at uploading them. And boom, just like that, you know, I just uploaded 5 photos in a matter of a few seconds. And there is no current limit on how many photos that you can upload in here. So that is as simple as it gets as far as uploading photos from any SD card right to onX. And obviously, as with anything that happens on WebMap, that will automatically sync over to the onX Hunt app as well. So super simple to upload photos. In fact, we did some testing on this. And at one time, I uploaded over 10,000 trail camera images in under 2 hours. So the uploader is very quick, very responsive. Thankfully, trail cameras are not mega giant files, and they are pretty easy to work with when uploading. So you can certainly do the manual uploading pretty seamlessly. Can you add a trail cameras that might be? All right, so this is a really good question and something that we know we need to work on. So can you add a trail camera that might be your buddy's that he already has in onX Hunt? And so I think what this question is getting at is on multiple of, well, all my Bushnell cameras, I have like 4 of my family members that are also logged into Bushnell. And unfortunately, right now, seeing as I am connected with all those Bushnell cameras on my onX account, that negates my dad from connecting my Bushnell cameras to his onX account. But that was recently brought to our attention by a customer just like yourselves. And why I didn't think of that a month ago, I'm not sure. But that's why we thrive off of feedback. So not currently possible, but coming. Elite member thing only. So currently what you're seeing right now is not elite only. This is available for trial. This is available for basic, and this is available for premium and elites. But I will say the future of trail cameras, as far as the analytics go, as far as providing you data correlated on weather factors and moon phases and barometric pressure and all those movements, that will be an elite only feature once that gets developed and implemented. But all of the cellular integration and the organization and seeing trail cameras inside of the Hunt app will not be an elite only feature. That is going to be for all of our onX Hunt users. So the next thing that I want to walk you guys through, and I am going to just do this on WebMap because it is functionally the same as it is in the app. I'll continue to answer some of these live questions here, but I also want to make sure that I show you guys some of these other features within onX that I think you will find extremely valuable for your whitetail hunts. So the first one is, as you can see, this is this is purely an example property in Missouri. I've actually never set foot here. But let me show you how you can utilize the, and I think I quit sharing. So let me pull myself together here. There we go. I think we got you now. So looking at this right here, obviously I have a couple trail camera waypoints in here, but I also have some tree stands and what have you. And this tree stand right here has this little wind bubble on it. So I'm going to show you how you can add that to any of your icons. And so right, if you click on any waypoint, or from when you create a waypoint after you save it, you'll have these waypoint tool options. And this one is going to say wind direction if it hasn't already been set. And I will actually just show you an example and start with a fresh waypoint here. So we're going to add a waypoint, and we're going to make it a tree stand, and we're going to keep the theme, and we're going to go blue. And I'm just going to save that. So from there, you have your waypoint card here after I saved it, and this wind direction tab. This is one of my favorite features within the Hunt app. So I can simply click on wind direction, and it's going to give me a pie chart for me to set my optimal wind for that individual stand location based on my personal hunting preferences. So I'm going to say that this tree stand hunts best on a south or a southwest wind. I'm going to apply that. And just like that, then it gives me a little indication of, okay, you said south and southwest. Well, today's a northeast. So it's going to be highlighted in red as to denote a poor wind condition for your optimal conditions for that stand site. And so the other thing that you can do is, if you didn't want to set an optimal wind on a waypoint, you can also just have it show the current wind direction, which I sometimes do this on my tree stands as well. If I just simply want to know, if there's any difference from a stand on one farm versus, a stand 20 miles down the road on a different farm I have to hunt. And as you'll see right here, it has it just all in white, just 2 miles an hour northeast, doesn't indicate green for good, orange for marginal, or red for poor. Another really useful feature that we automatically create for you after you have set current wind or optimal wind on at least one waypoint is wind calendar. And so this is a tool in your menu on your app, just like it is on Web Map here, but you can open wind calendar, and this always takes a second to load here. But the one thing I like to do, I have optimal wind set on a metric pile of stands. So I'm going to just list only list currently visible on screen. There's something funky going on here that if I don't query my waypoints, they're not coming up with a bubble. But that should not be an issue at large. But basically, as you'll see here, you have a forecast of the upcoming wind directions by sunrise, midday, and sunset for all of your different tree stand locations that you have. And so let's say, I was planning on going on a hunt Friday afternoon. Well, pretty clearly I got bad winds at multiple locations, but my ladder stand here right in the middle of the property is going to be a good wind all day. Pretty easy way for me to just quickly forecast what stand locations based on sunrise, midday, or sunset have huntable winds just at a glance. So highly recommend utilizing optimal wind and wind calendar to really help you organize your tree stand locations and understand, where the best set is for your next sit. On top of that, I think one really underutilized feature of onX, and myself is guilty of it as well, is utilizing the weather that we have within our own platform. So all of our weather, we pull from Weather Underground. That's where we source all of this from. So very reliable weather data. I want to say there are close to, I think it's 300 and some odd thousand weather stations across the US. So they're typically pulling from a pretty localized area to wherever you are. And you can see that, you can go current, this week, hourly. We have hourly barometric pressure, hourly precipitation, if there's any in the forecast. There's a full moon phase calendar in here that shows you, as far out as you want to go for the next number of months. It tells you when it's underfoot, when it's overhead, when it sets, when it rises. You also have your sunrise and your sunset. So as a hardcore whitetail hunter, weather is imperative for every hunt. So really just trying to make the Hunt app a one-stop shop for everything that you need in order to be more successful in the whitetail woods. Another feature that I have really been using a ton. I'm going to go find a good example spot here. Let's see. We're going to go down to Arkansas. All right. So I don't have my public private turned on in Arkansas, but honestly, I think that's good for what I'm about to show you. So in our base map card, which looks essentially the exact same on your phone, you have a number of different base map options that are really useful for the whitetail woods. And so these features are elite only, but honestly, they're worth the price of admission in and of themselves. So leaf off imagery is something that has been requested at a very high rate, particularly in the Southeast and in the Northeast. And so we have listened and we have delivered 13 states so far this year. And there's multiple more on the docket that should be finished before the end of the year for high resolution leaf off imagery. So as you'll see here, just with the flip of a button, you go from a sea of green to really being able to kind of see those creek bottoms and see that ground level and see that marsh in there that otherwise is just not nearly as visible and nearly as obvious with all of the canopy cover on. And so that covers Arkansas, Wisconsin, North Carolina, West Virginia. I believe Pennsylvania's in there. I know Mississippi is soon to come. Kansas is in there. So there's 13 states currently. I think we should have 15, 16, 17 by the end of the year. And we'll continue to add more states as we find the sources to provide that leaf off imagery for us. The next one that I've really been liking is recent imagery. So recent imagery, in my opinion, is something that needs to be used in conjunction with our other base imagery options. So you'll see it says right here, less detail, but updated frequently. And so you're not going to have the same zoom resolution that you would with our base imagery. I'll quickly just show that as an example. As I zoom in here, you clearly lose a fair amount of zoom resolution as compared to our general base map. But as you can see, this general base map was probably taken sometime late spring, early summer, just based upon these crop fields and this canopy. Whereas when I flip off this recent imagery, you can see that this is likely already a harvested field, where this up here is clearly more alfalfa or something that's more perennial. But in places like, I'll just try to zoom up and find a place in the upper Midwest that has a soybean field that's turned yellow, or a cornfield that's been harvested. So if I flip on recent imagery up here, yeah, you can really just start to see these different crop fields and how they appear to be harvested versus standing versus corn versus soybeans, which of course we have other layers inside of the Hunt app to help you with that. This trees, crops, and cover layer. You can use this US crop distribution and flip that on. We have a plethora of crops in here for most intents and purposes. Your corn, your soybeans, and your alfalfa are going to be kind of your main crops in most of the whitetail world. But again, recent imagery, a great tool to be used in conjunction with other layers, other imagery, to get as much of an understanding of an area as you possibly can. The last one I want to show you in this base map card is 3D elevation exaggeration. So as you can see, there's some topography here, but by and large, not a whole lot of elevation change. And so what I'm going to do is click 3D elevation exaggeration, which will automatically flip me into 3D. I'm going to use Control and left click to just tilt and pan a little bit. And with this hybrid map, you can see that right here in this big ag field, there is definitely a little bit of topography, but you're not really able to see it in 3D because it's so subtle. This 3D elevation exaggeration, you'll have to play with it a little bit and find the sweet spot. But as you do, we're a little laggy here recording on Zoom, but I promise you it's a lot better when I'm not screen sharing with hundreds of people. But as you can see, as I slid that elevation exaggeration, you now have a very clear, distinct hump in the middle of this field that was completely invisible with just base 3D. And so you can make this as exaggerated as you want, but super helpful when, in places like Kansas or Iowa or parts of Illinois and Missouri that are just flat, a lot of ag, not a lot of topography. You can really use that 3D elevation exaggeration to find those swales, find those ditches, find those subtle edges that deer know are there and are going to use with their travel routes. So just another feature that I've been using a ton e-scouting, particularly for Kansas, where I'm just going and hunting, walking in public land that I've never set foot on before. So being as prepared as possible is really what web map and e-scouting comes down to for me. Because if I can get a little bit better understanding of the terrain, that's going to save me some boots on the ground time when I get there that I can spend hunting rather than scouting. So with that, I'm going to dump the giveaway link inside of the chat here, as I promised I would about 30, 40 minutes in. We got a few more minutes, and so I am going to just rattle through some questions that came in live, as well as came in from the registration questions. So favorite layers for whitetails. I guess I dipped on my screen share too early. So my favorite layers for whitetails, far and away, under trees, crops, and cover, acorn producing oaks. So this year across much of the country, it was a banner acorn crop. I know in northern Wisconsin, a spot I hunt, my dad said it was the best acorn crop he's seen in decades. I know like Mark Kenyon and Giannis Putelis were just down in Kentucky, and they collected over 700 pounds of acorns by hand to go to a nursery and be planted. And they said it was a bumper crop down there, which great for the deer, bad for hunters. If you look at bumper acorn crop years, hunter success plummets because they are just much more spread out on food sources they have. But this acorn producing oaks layer is a great one to understand where there might be some great mast crops. If you're up in the Northeast, like Pennsylvania, Maine, New York, that country, this timber cuts layer, which will show timber cuts on national forest over the last 15 years, that is a great one to find edges and those transitions of old growth and new growth, where you're going to find that bed to food transition where those deer are going to be using. Those outside of the obvious public, private, and any walk-in hunting program layers would be my favorite whitetail layers. What are some best practices you implement to avoid false detections on cameras? Yeah, so that goes back to the little direction arrow that we have set, or we have for you to allow to set on your trail cameras. Ideally, you want to face your cameras northerly. Facing them south or west is going to give you a lot more sun flare and a lot more of those heat detections on a wavy grass or a wavy branch. And then boiling down on some of my favorite trail camera locations, as there are a number of questions here on that. This time of year, I'm moving as many of my cameras as possible to scrapes. From now until, Halloween weekend, scrapes are going to be a huge part of a buck's everyday routine, as far as freshening them and making sure that they know that their territory is established, see what other bucks are in the area. So right now I'd be putting a lot of cameras on scrapes. Food sources are never out, in my opinion, on trail cameras. If you have a really good food plot, or even if it's an ag field where you kind of have a major trail system coming into, I don't think those ever go out of style for a trail camera. And then one thing that I've really been doing a lot more of this year than years past is I have some cameras on water sources. I think I maybe have 5 or 6 cameras on water sources. And in Wisconsin in particular, and much of the Midwest this year has been quite dry. So water sources have produced some of my better photos this year in the Midwest in particular. Are there any features accessible that could help us identify primary thermal regions? Yeah, so I'm going to go to a spot with a little bit more topography and show you our slope angle layer. All right, Western Wisconsin should have some good topography for me. So if I open up slope angle, or which is under land and access, and it's this one right here. So slope angle, once I turn that on, and this is also a great layer if you are unfamiliar with topography and reading topographic maps. This pretty much distills it down into a color-coded legend. And so up here you have, from green being 5 to 10 degrees of slope, that lime green, yellow 10 to 15, yellow 15 to 20, so on and so forth. This will really help you understand what thermals will be doing based on where you're sitting, purely based on the color. So if you're sitting in somewhere that is this red color or this, this more opaque orange, like you are going to be on something pretty steep, and the thermals are 100% going to be in effect in the area you're hunting. Whereas if you're down here on this very light lime green stuff, pretty flat, predominantly, you're not going to have a whole lot of thermal movement. Now, of course, with this big ridge system behind you, you are certainly going to have some thermal movement, even if you're at the very bottom of the ridge, but far less so than in some of these more colored up red areas. If you find even like these blue or purple areas, that's going to be extremely steep, and thermals are absolutely going to play a factor. But this layer can also be used to identify natural terrain funnels and saddles. And so, right here, this is a natural terrain funnel. Deer are no different than us. They want to take the path of least resistance. So I would bet good money that you are going to find a very solid deer trail that rides right up, one of the edges of this draw, right on the edge of that steeper stuff. But just a really easy way to identify changes and breaks in terrain that deer just inherently know how to use. There's a question on here on how you can share more than just a singular waypoint. And so what you can do is, if you go to my content, you can create folders. So let me go into an area where I have a few waypoints. I'm going to turn off my slope angle because it is pretty distracting. So if you want to share more than one waypoint at a time, what you can simply do is add a folder. So I'm just going to say 1017 webinar. I'm going to save that. If you click on that folder, you can just simply add content. And it's thinking, probably because I have 3,000 and some odd waypoints on this account. But then you can simply only list content currently visible on the screen. And I'm just going to add these couple waypoints into this folder. Click done. And now I have, 4 waypoints in my, too much clicking. My 1017 webinar now has 4 waypoints. You can add 4, you can add 400, you can add 4,000. And then you can simply just share that. On the phone, it's going to give you an option just to text it out, to email it out, whatever it may be. On web, it just gives me this link that I can copy and send to somebody however I see best fit. But a super easy way to share multiple, whether that's a track, a waypoint icon, a line, an area shape. If you can make it on onX, you can share it, and you can share it in bulk. You just have to create a folder to organize some of that content. So we're going to post this giveaway link one last time. I'll answer a few more questions here, and then I am going to save the rest of my voice before I completely lose it. Main features I look for when e-scouting public land that I haven't seen in person. Ooh, that's a good question. The first one I'm looking for is habitat diversity. And this is something that I really picked up on from the guys at the hunting public, and something they harp on repeatedly is finding diverse habitats. So I'm just going to go to this random piece of public that I have no knowledge of and start to take a look. And so right away, when you're looking at the map here, I'm looking for edges. So I'm just going to use the line tool here, right here. This is a very, very distinct edge all the way around over on this side. So these edges of habitat diversity are very interesting to me. Anywhere where you find multiple habitats coming together, you are going to find deer, you are going to find turkeys, you're going to find most critters, because most critters are edge oriented. So that's the first thing I look for. The next thing I look at is access. On this piece of ground, the access is pretty terrible, which to me is awesome. The worse the access, the better. I'm willing to walk up hills. I'm willing to wear waders. I'm willing to use a canoe. And this is an area that gives you that ability to really get creative on your access. It looks like you could probably put a canoe or a kayak in this slough and get yourself away from people. Again, finding where there are changes in the map, this edge of the big swampy slough area with timber on the outside, you get closer to over here, and clearly you have some residential areas, which, you guys know as well as I know, there are plenty of big deer running around suburbias. So if I could get, near some of those gardens and some of those bird feeders, but again, kind of on the edge of this marsh, ultimately it's really not that far of a distance for a deer to travel to, be feeding in this residential area and bedding back in here 500 yards. So those are the biggest things I look for. I look for habitat diversity. What is the access like? And what would be the theoretical food to bed situation for a deer living on that piece of public ground? So with that, we're going to drop the giveaway link one last time. Appreciate you guys sticking with me through my hoarse voice here. Please send in feedback on the trail camera integration. We want to improve it. We want to make sure that it works as well as possible for you guys to serve your needs. We are going to give away a few trail cameras to you guys here tonight. So make sure you fill out that giveaway link, and appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys have any questions, I'm always happy to answer them personally. My personal email is Jared, Jared, Larson, Larsen, @onxmaps.com. If you ever want to shoot hunting stories back and forth, or ask me what questions you guys have, or send me a picture of a whitetail you harvest, I would love nothing more than to hear from you guys. So don't ever hesitate to reach out, and we'll be doing more of these in the future. So good luck as you guys get into your trees, and yeah, keep me posted on all your guys' success. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Good luck this season.